Hey, thanks for joining me. Boy, I got to tell you, these artist editions, um, they're getting to be a little bit of a problem for me. Um, this one right here in front of you, X-Men Artist Edition, it's one of my favorite things ever because, as I've talked about on my channel, I grew up as a young man right at the time when Jim Lee was getting on Uncanny X-Men and in the early 90s, and his art was just the greatest thing to me ever. And having, I just keep thinking like young me, young early teenager me, if I could have had this book in my hands, this would have been like holy Bible scripture to me. This would have been the greatest thing a young artist me could have ever had in his life. I absolutely love these things, these artist editions. And just the other day, my good friends Chuck Gibson and Jason Hall, we were all chit-chatting on our little private little text thread, and they mentioned, Chuck did, I think it was, first, that this damn book was available on Amazon. I think I paid a total of, like, with tax, $60, when these things are normally $150. I was like, I can't pass this up. So I was sitting here thinking about it. What I'm talking about when I started the video is that how these damn artist editions are getting to be a problem because they're so big. I mean, to just compare it to the size of a regular comic book, for anybody who doesn't know, this is like your standard American comic book right there. And then you got this giant book. This is artist editions that reproduce the original art, scans of the original art with no cleanup. So you can see the yellowing of the paper and the handwritten notes and any whiteout or any goof ups or just anything. So you can see what the original art looks like as close as is humanly possible without actually physically having the things in front of you. I honestly didn't know that this one existed either. I think I'd seen the cover, and for some reason I just assumed that it was probably just a cover book or something like that. I didn't know what was in it, but it was pointed out to me by my friends, and so I went and kind of looked it up, and I saw that there's actual sequential pages in here. Like, this is a straight up artist edition, just like that X-Men one I just had up here, and it's of Jim Lee's work. I'm like, holy shit, I didn't know there's another Jim Lee artist edition. I just hadn't paid attention. So now I have the X-Men Jim Lee book. I have this DC one. I have, just recently I did a video on the Frank Miller Daredevil book. I've got the John Byrne X-Men one. I've got Savage Dragon by Eric Larson. I've got the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man one. I've got the fan-produced Nick Manabat Cybernary one. I will soon have the fan-produced Aaron Weisenfeld Wildstorm Edition 1. I have coming in the mail the J. Scott Campbell Danger Girl 1. And then as soon as they actually have it ready to release, I'm going to be picking up the Rob Liefeld Youngblood 1. So that's like 10 of these fucking books. And I sure love them. And one of these days, hopefully many, many years from now, when I shuffle loose this mortal coil, somebody is going to have to deal with these giant fucking artist edition books. To say nothing of the piles and piles of comics that I've collected over the years, and especially how I've increased my comic collection since I started this channel. I never intended to actually start buying more books, but having the channel and finding a couple of places to pick up stuff really cheap, I've just started adding books to my collection again. Sometimes not because I want them, but it's more because it's just for the channel. But still, it's quite a pile. It's quite a mess. Anyway, that being said, Jim Lee Artist Edition, another one. I was shocked, and again, I found it on Amazon due to a referral from one of my friends. I had no idea there was another Jim Lee one, and for so cheap, like if you're interested in this, go look on Amazon right now, because I'm recording this on the day I got it. I ordered it maybe 2 or 3 days ago today, and I'm going to release it either Friday or Saturday. I haven't decided what, because today's Thursday. If you want one of these, it was pretty cheap. It's the time to get it. I have said obviously a lot, and I know a lot of you know this. I'm not a huge fan of Jim Lee working at DC in terms of getting excited about his art. I'm not blown away by Jim Lee drawing Batman or Superman. It looks good, of course, but it's different when it's the black and white original art. It's something different entirely. And that just changes everything. Let me see. I can't tell you how many times I've tried adjusting this damn camera around because this book's so big. I'm trying to get it straight on. I don't want it like at an angle so it kind of distorts it. So yeah, even though it's DC Comics characters and DC books that I don't read, just getting to see anything that's original artwork from one of my favorite artists, even if it's like on books that I'm not particularly thrilled with, for that cheap, I had to get it. Had to get it. Love the inside front cover thing. It's also the first one that I can think of out of all the ones that I have where they just kind of put like a flat color over it instead of being just a straight black and white, which is different. You know, it's you know, we get these because I want to see the art in the original black and white, but just throwing kind of a color tone over this is fun. And I think this is obviously a super zoomed in. You know, this is not to scale, but I look at some of these art lines, these ink lines specifically from what Scott Williams does, and I'm just kind of constantly fascinated how he gets these lines to throw down with these particular sharp points at the tips of them. I mean, I get, you know, with a brush or a nib, you can get a thicker line here, and you progressively get thinner as you fade it out to transition from your solid black to your solid white. You get these gray tones. But just his ability, Scott Williams' ability to throw these lines, these ink lines, with a very specific look. Something I've been chasing my entire time that I've been drawing comic books as an amateur idiot myself. But yeah, Jim Lee, DC Legends. I do have to say, if this was just DC Comics art, I might have passed it up. There's a chance I might have. But somebody had pointed out to me, and that's what made me go look, is that there's a decent chunk. It's the smallest portion of the book, but a decent chunk of his WILDSTORM stuff. And that made it more interesting to me immediately. Great little shot of Harley Quinn there. But yeah, here's your table of contents. But pages, 7 through 31 is all his like Image Comics WILDSTORM content right there. And so I'm like, well, that, it makes it feel like something entirely different. It makes it feel like it's more, like I'm more interested in his Image work than his Batman and Superman stuff. And somebody could argue like, well, why does it matter? It's still his art in black and white. I get it. But I'm just somebody who wants to actually see, I'm not interested as much in the DC content. I am interested in this stuff. And what kind of is unfortunate is I like the WILDSTORM stuff up front more than any of the other stuff in the rest of the book, in the back of it. It makes me wish that like I just want just Wildcats type, anything from WILDSTORM. I just want an artist edition of Jim Lee's just WILDSTORM stuff. I'm sure there's obviously enough pages in existence that you could fill another one of these books with just his WILDSTORM stuff. But apparently they thought only to just put a little bit of it in this thing. I guess we'll just take what we can get. I saw this thing, the Gen 13 characters and the big dinosaur. I'm like, God, I remember this art. I don't remember what it was from, but I do remember it. It just kind of instantly takes me back to wherever the hell this is from. It's not dated anywhere that I could see. Jim Lee doing Gen 13 was never the greatest thing because J. Scott Campbell stole that limelight instantly with his great artwork, but this still looks good. I like the dinosaur. The dinosaur's got kind of like a quirky look, like almost like one eye is wide open and one eye is kind of shut, and the mouth is kind of like open at like kind of like a contorted angle. I like the interesting kind of leathery reptilian kind of skin on it. It's fun. It's a good dinosaur. I think the dinosaur's tail is way too freaking long. I mean, good God, does it go forever. But visually, it's fantastic. I also like how like free fall up here, like how her hand is breaking the border out the top there. That's fun. Grunge's elbows breaking the border on the side there. Fun stuff. But what else we got in here? These ones, I'm just like, oh God, oh, I love it. I could say this about a lot of specific images, a lot of covers, but there's something about the cover to Wildcats #2 that I just remember that specific time, in comics reading and how excited I was for Wildcats. That cover, of course, was that shiny silver foil look. So this drawing specifically, it takes me back instantly. It's such a crazy time. And I was just, again, just this young kid right there at the beginning of Image Comics. Like, everything had been so exciting over at Marvel with what all those guys did. Rob, Todd, Jim, Mark, Eric, Wills, Jim Valentino, all those guys, all the stuff they were doing at Marvel. It was so fun. It was so great. But then they go off to do their own company, their own characters, even though for the most part, a lot of them ended up being, in the long term, kind of a disappointment and not awesome. At the time, it was so great. I love this drawing. I sit here and I look at it and I just wonder exactly how Scott Williams
power on.
inked these long straight lines. I'm wondering if he takes a ruler, where I know there's a technique where you take a ruler and you prop it up at an angle, and then you take your tool and run it along like that, to get the ink line when you're using a brush or a nib. But that sucks so many levels of hell. I've tried it a couple times. It's terrible. And they look too straight to be thrown by freehand. I don't know. It's just one of those art things. I like to make my own stuff, and I ink my own stuff, and I look at these things. I'm like, how do you throw those lines like that? What tool is he using? It looks so good. And I also think it's kind of interesting. I do like this is the cover, and then this is a page from inside the book itself. This is Wildcats #2. This is issue 2 of Wildcats, the same issue, but page 3. It's almost the same image. Void in the same pose, and all the characters behind her as they're teleporting, just positioned differently. They took Zealot from this side, just flipped her onto the other side. And I'm not saying it's like a copy-paste thing. It's essentially the same character in the same pose, but it is a new drawing. And Voodoo down here is kind of in the same pose. Warblade back here is kind of in the same pose. It's just kind of funny. I wonder if Jim Lee drew this page in the book. I just kind of assume covers come last, but I wonder if he drew this page and thought that that would actually make a great cover, so he redraws it in a kind of a different way to get the cover. But it looks great. But I love this. I'm instantly a teenager again. I'm just so excited to see it. Like I said before, for anybody out there who's a maker, makes comics and art and their own stuff, again, I just keep imagining that young teenage me having this book in hand. This would have been the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life, just to see how this artwork looks for real. Issue 4. Page 14. What's crazy is this is the only page of sequential art from the original Wildcats miniseries in this entire book, is this one random page of all fucking things. This is from the regular series. They just went from issue 4, I think. I can't remember. Did Wildcats, when he got done with the original 4-issue miniseries, he didn't start over with another number 1. I think he just continued the numbering, right? Do I remember correctly? It just went straight to issue 5, because that's what this is. I'm pretty sure that's the case. But as far as sequential art from Wildcats, well, I mean, I guess technically this is from the sequential pages, but it's just a splash. But this is the only one from the original Wildcats miniseries. I'm like, there's so many pages that I'd love to see in an artist edition. Literally the entire miniseries of Wildcats 1 through 4. I want to see that. But then anything else, all the sequential pages from all the other issues of Wildcats that Jim Lee drew. There's so many cool things. And these are literally it. These couple pages here and these pages after that there. And then we get into some other stuff. The problem is that as far as the Wildstorm content that's in this book, it's mostly pinups and covers. And I want to see the sequential pages. I want to see the little panels and the close-up on all the little storytelling beats. That's what I want. Yes, the splash pages and covers are awesome, but I want a Wildstorm book from Jim Lee, and we just get this little tiny bit. I remember looking at this art right here, this straight-on shot of the guy with the heavily shadowed lower jaw as a kid. I remember looking at the art in the original comic and was trying to understand all the shapes and forms of that down there. Another page from issue 5, page 16. Bad guy turns into a lizard monster. Boy, that is something Jim Lee just loves. He loves his monsters to be lizard things. slashes at Voodoo there. I do like the drawing. It's got a very reptilian, gross kind of look to his skin. Like, it looks good. I like the little blast lines going on in the background there, and then there's like whatever the white media is, whether it's paint or whiteout or whatever it may be using, to do these little white cross lines across here to give it some action and motion. I like this shot of Spartan blasting a hole through the guy. That looks good. Again, boring lizard monster, but lizard monster looks really good. It's a boring villain, but great drawing. Wildcats, and then we jumped. This is issue 5. Then we jumped to issue 12, page 3. And I remember looking at these guys here when I was flipping through this book just about an hour or two ago when I got it out of the mail. I'm like, right, these bad guys. What are their names? This guy's like Lava or Molten or Slag, I think. And I think Attica, whatever that means. And then this little hover sled they're on, he's a transformer named Harm. It's an acronym for whatever the hell. I like, again, great art. I love the texture on the giant molten monster or whatever the fuck thing he is. I like the silhouette city and the explosion in the background. But his characters, boy, are they boring. Flipping over. Oh, not that this matters, but I did think it was interesting. Flipping back a little bit. I like how these pages... Oh, you can't see it. I gotta adjust my camera again. See? These are drawn on Marvel Comics boards. That's hilarious to me, because I'm sure that, all these guys that worked for Image, when they started, they all had a pile of paper from Marvel. I seem to remember hearing that Marvel Comics paper was garbage, and then when Image Comics guys, when they got their own paper... there seems to be a conversation people have how the Image Comics paper was just... incredible. Sorry, I'm just trying to adjust this thing back again. Sorry for the jostling around of the camera. But there was word that the Image Comics paper was just of a vastly superior quality. This one is Marvel Comics paper. This one says Image Comics paper. But this one says the Kubert School. KubertArtStore.com. Strathmore 400 series. Awesome big double page spread of the Wildcats from, says Absolute Wildcats cover. This is obviously way later in, I wish it said when this was made. This is not the, in the early to mid 90s when Jim was drawing Wildcats to start. This is some kind of like, image drawn later. You could definitely tell that Scott Williams is not inking the same way. The line work in here is a thinner, kind of more scratchier thing. I don't think he's using nibs or brushes. I think these are tech pens that he's using here. I'm pretty certain, I've been told by people in the know, that at a certain point, Scott Williams stopped using like the dip pens and transitioned over to using technical pens. And if you know what you're looking for, you can see it. I can see it. And I'm not saying it's a negative. You could get some really nice kind of gray tones, like going up here in Maul's arms. It's interesting. I think probably these big chunky rock things down here are probably done with the brush. That would make sense down there. But the line work through here, all these kind of like sketchy lines going back and forth to make these gray tones. It's a much thinner line. It's not like a nib or a brush line, so I'm guessing it's some kind of tech pen. It looks good. It's not my favorite version, though, of his art. It's it's talking about Jim Lee being inked by Scott Williams. Like I said, there's stuff that they've done years before that I think the finish looks better than this. But, we're talking Jim Lee and Scott Williams. It's like, if I thought other stuff was a 10, a perfect 10, this is like a 9.8 or something like that. Anybody would be happy to get kind of this level. It's pretty awesome. This is going to kind of blow some people's minds and probably think that I'm absolutely stupid. But in this entire book, these 2 pages right here are maybe my favorite things in this entire book. I love Jim Lee's experimentation with the art style that he did with Death Blow. I've talked often about how I was a huge fan of Jim Lee when he was on Uncanny X-Men. And then when he jumped over to the regular X-Men title, I'm still a big fan. But his art started to change just a little bit, and it progressively changed more. And he jumped over to Wildcats. And, Jim Lee's experimented, and he's done different things. But the last time I was absolutely blown away, because it used to happen all the time. When I look at Jim Lee's work on all those X-Men titles and a lot of different stuff, I remember just looking at things and going, this is so good. This is so neat. But then that excitement tapered off dramatically. But then suddenly, when he did that short story in Darker Image #1, they had Blood Wolf and Max, and then the first appearance of Deathblow. Now, we're not talking about the story. Story sucks. 100% sucks. But that heavily rendered, chunky, black inky style that Jim Lee said he inks this himself, and he uses a brush, primarily a brush, to do this. That was the last time I was absolutely blown away by the art Jim Lee did. And it still stands to this day. I love it so much. And what sucks is this is the only 2 images in this entire book that have that Jim Lee Deathblow, Frank Miller Sin City ripoff style. I've said before that Jim Lee should have done All-Star Batman and Robin that Frank Miller wrote. That thing should have been drawn in this style, which, for multiple reasons they didn't do it, including that Scott Williams doesn't get to ink, so he's kind of out of a job if Jim Lee's inking himself, and he doesn't get those fat paychecks. But I'm just, artistically, this stuff looks so good. I just cannot get over how much I love everything that's going on with the way that this is inked, again, with big chunky black shapes done by a brush. And this drawing right here, this cover, is one of my favorite drawings Jim Lee has ever done, ever. Like, part of me kind of wants to just cut this out of this book and frame it and hang it up. I don't think I will. I could probably just as easily find a high-resolution image online, or if I had to, I could scan it. But I love this shot. What I love about it is one of the things I started not being super fan of with Jim Lee is how he eventually developed that cross-hatching style where there's all these cross-hatching lines. But in his earlier Uncanny X-Men work, it relied more heavily on solid black shapes. And this art is kind of a throwback to that. He's not doing cross-hatching lines all over the place. They're just chunky black shapes to define the form. Now, again, I understand he's kind of doing the Frank Miller Sin City thing, but still, I love this. I mean, Deathblow is a hulkingly huge monster in terms of size to the Nun here, but that's okay. I love everything about that face, the bandana that he's wearing, the little bandana's little tail thing that's flailing through the air, the way that it's kind of a broken line up here for the highlight for the light source. Again, I understand it's a Sin City ripoff thing, but goddamn, I love everything about this. I could stare at this forever, and I will. One of my favorite drawings Jim Lee's ever done. It's so good. And all his Deathblow stuff is like that. And unfortunately, that is it from the original Deathblow run where he did like that Darker Image book, and then he did like 2 issues, and then I think they handed off, it was issue 3, where Tim Sale took over. And Tim Sale's a great artist, but at the time on Deathblow compared to Jim Lee, it wasn't the same. And then the story fucking sucked. Love that work. But again, that's it. It's over. And then what's even more silly is we go from this Deathblow shit to one of my least favorite Jim Lee drawings ever. Now, somebody might look at that and go, what the hell is wrong with that? Most artists would love to be able to draw like this. And it's not so much the drawing as much as it is knowing that Jim Lee took over Gen 13 from J. Scott Campbell for a minute. Campbell probably needed a break, and Gen 13 was hyper popular, and Jim Lee wanted to, get in on that business. So he does 2 issues of Gen 13, and by God, did he suck the life out of Gen 13 and made it so boring and so uninteresting. And that cover was just what was going on there. And again, I've seen Jim Lee do more interesting covers. I just feel like I've seen better stuff. Fairchild doesn't look right. Her facial structure looks kind of weird. Her giant titties look a little bit fake, and I know Jim Lee can do a more naturalistic look on them. Her shoulders are kind of bulky. Her body seems kind of short and squat. Her legs seem way extensively long. And, I know Campbell draws women with long legs, but he's got a more cartoony, whimsical style that fits. It's fine. The inking's great. It's all fine, but compared to what Jim Lee can do, this is not his best work. And I believe he was trying hard, but I just, again, to me, it's this Deathblow stuff is a billion times better than this. This one's certainly fine. The girl, I'm guessing this is Fairchild. What is it? The Roman Colosseum in the background. I love that. That looks great. Stupid grunge eating a piece of pizza like a fucking idiot. Do you not know how to eat a fucking piece of pizza, you retard? Jesus Christ. Anyway. And then there's a shot of Deathblow, but this is dated 2000. I don't know what that's from. I don't know what the significance of it is. It's later from, when he started doing that Deathblow stuff originally. And it's certainly good. It's not quite the same thing. It is Jim Lee inking himself, but he's not using a brush. Looks like there's a technical pen going on. So it looks great. I love this belt of bullets coming down here, and he's actually got the belt, as it comes down, it twists to where the tips of the bullets are twisting and now facing the other direction. That's a really interesting kind of like thought that Jim Lee put into that, having that belt of bullets actually twist as it dangles there. So again, it looks good, but it's not the same. And then speaking of shit that just gets boring, there's Divine Right. There's Max Faraday, preview cover to something. So it's just like, and it's just a weird choice to have us like, hey, here's this young guy sitting at a desk. He's got pizza and whack cola, and he's on the internet creeping on the senoritas, looking up internet porn right there. And he's looking at us like he got busted. I'm like, dude, stop jerking off at the computer to hot naked girls. Like, fucking stop it. But Divine Right, boring. No, but you get some pages from the Divine Right comic. I'm in the middle of reviewing it. I think I've hit up to issue 5. And again, it's not my favorite Jim Lee stuff at all. It's just something's different from his older work. But getting to see it in the black and white looks good. It's weird. Some of these pages just randomly have a different inker. I just noticed this just before I started recording, that I noticed that this page inked by Sabal. Jonathan Sabal instead of Scott Williams. I got to say, looking at it, at a glance, I was like, that looks like Scott Williams to me. But it's not. Scott Williams did this one. But now looking at it and going like, okay, so that's not Scott Williams. It's Sabal inking, because it says his name right there. I got to say, Sabal is a pretty good inker to have this kind of level of control that at a glance, I'm like, it looks like Jim Lee. It looks like Scott Williams over Jim Lee. Which is pretty good praise. Like, if you can approximate Scott Williams inks to that level, that's saying something. Now, anybody who really, really knows might look at this and see a lot of big differences. I'm not saying it's an exact approximation, but to me, it looks pretty damn good. So props to Sabal for like bringing the ink skills. It is interesting, this texture in the background, this heavily black, blocky shapes, and then these transitions fading from the black to the white. There's a version of this inked by Scott Williams in a couple of pages that we'll see. Looks very different. I like what Sabal does here, but when you see what Scott Williams does, to my eye, I'm like, it's 1,000 times better what Scott Williams did. Whatever the hell this image is for, again, it's for Divine Right, but I don't know what it's from. I don't ever remember seeing it. It says Divine Right Uncut. Uncut what? I don't even know what that means. You got the main girl, Christine Blaze, this girl here, both pages. And again, lizard monsters. Jim Lee loves his lizard monsters. It's a good design. It's a good drawing. It's creepy. And I like the big little 3-fingered or, 2-fingered and 1-thumb hand right here. It looks nice. Again, whatever the hell it was for. Just another cover with the 3-fingered twat Brandy, and then Christine Blaze, and then Tobruk. All super uninteresting characters. No one cares about these guys. But it's kind of okay. This one, I do like the attention paid to all the detail in the belts. All the belts and the straps and the buckles and the gear and the grenades and the holsters on the guns. And then I like how her tits are just hanging out of her jacket, so we can focus on that up front. Like, Jim Lee went all in with the details. I do have to say, it wasn't until I was flipping through this artist edition when I first got it, I swear to you, I never noticed that in her hand over here, this left hand, at a glance, because like obviously she's holding a gun in this hand. I always thought she was holding a gun in this hand, like is some kind of like revolver or something. I thought that this was a gun barrel to a weapon she's holding in her hand. And it's absolutely not. That's a shotgun strapped to her back. She's holding a lighter, lighting up her stogie. I'm like, holy shit, I've never noticed that forever. I just thought she was holding another gun in that hand because I never really paid attention to that kind of detail. I was busy looking at her tits popping out of her jacket and all this awesome detail on the belts going on down here. So good. And again, Scott Williams Inc.'s looking great. Kind of digging this cover. Exotica is the name of this character. Again, we got tits front and center. Love it. Thank you. She's got the rogue hair with the little curly Q things going on. The mask is kind of silly, but it looks good in its own way. Somehow Jim Lee makes it look awesome. I love the swirling smoke designs. I love the kind of cape elements down here. Like, it's kind of fun. I like it. This is the cover to issue 5, which is the last one I think I reviewed. Again, there's Faraday. There's Fairchild. It's fine. It's not blowing me away, but it's fine. Another cover. Again, it's all covers and splash pages and stuff. I want sequential art. Again, don't particularly care for these characters. This page has obviously been cared for. Like, some of these pages are very yellowed in some places, but a lot of these are nice and bright. So it's kind of fine there. Another shot of, Christine Blaze is the girl with all her belts and straps and gears. And again, Lizard Monster. There's Lizard Monster in the background there. Lizard Monster right up front here. I kind of like the framing of Lizard Monster, like his weird, gross hip and his body. This is like the lower part of its jaw. You can see his teeth there. And then kind of his upper body there and his arm coming down. I love the way this hand is drawn. And I do love all the lighting on it. Heavy shadows and all these beautiful cross-hatching lines coming out of these shadows all over. These black shapes and these rendering lines coming out of all these black shapes. It looks so good. Scott Williams was on fire on this one. Again, that hand looks awesome. And I like how the lizard thing up front's got all these black shapes that puts that part of the drawing close, your eye is drawn to it. It makes you feel like it's in the foreground. And then the girl in the background, for the most part, there's no heavy blacks almost anywhere. A little bit of shadow under her arms and a little bit on her leg. But it's just basically open line stuff. So it makes her set in the background. There's a separation of planes. Very cool. Again, hot girl with guns, Lizard Monster. I've seen it a million times from Jim Lee. But I love the drawing on that. So good. Right here, this is a cover to, I think it's issue 10. Big, giant, metallic-looking hand holding like a snow globe with Max Faraday and his girlfriend. It's kind of a fine drawing. But here is that black background that I was talking about that Sabal had done the similar type of thing. And I don't know how well the resolution is going to come through in the video. But with Sabal's here, it's an entirely different approach. Now, I'm assuming that Jim Lee penciled it the same way, and the way that he indicated what he wanted was penciled the same way, and these are different inkers taking different approaches to render this background texture. I'm assuming that. And so Sabal's has there are these little kind of like dot patterns occasionally through here that he intentionally puts on there. And then all of these lines out here are basically the same kind of flat uniform shape for the most part. But with Scott Williams, it starts from a thin line at the tip, and then it transitions from a very thin line into a thicker line. So it fades into the black rather than it's just kind of like dead lines that kind of cross-hatch into the black. These lines fade into the black, and then there's some dabbed on white paint that may or may not come through. You may not be able to see it through the camera, but a little bit of white dabbed onto it. So the transitions from the white into the solid white into the solid black are more it's softer, and therefore it looks more like it's glowing. This looks like it's glowing. This, it does not. Once it's colored, it looks fine. I think both ways work. But honestly, the Scott Williams version here, I think looks way better. Again, you can see there's all this these little splotchy little white circles in the way that's transitioning from the tips of this stuff. I love that background transition. Like, it gives it a glowy kind of effect in your backgrounds. And the Scott Williams one looks 1,000 times better in my opinion. I think it looks great. But both work. Again, I'm not complaining about what Sabal's done. And again, if it was penciled the same, an inker has the opportunity to kind of add their own kind of flair and style. This works fine, but Scott Williams looks just better. This one over here, I was looking at it and I was instantly like, okay, well, this is Jim Lee on this page at all? Because this center figure mostly looks like Jim Lee. So I had to look in the credits at the front because I was obviously, at first, I'm like, well, I know that is a Travis Charest drawing right there instantly. And that is a J. Scott Campbell drawing. I know that instantly. And in the credits, it says Travis Charest pencils and Troy Hubbs on inks on that figure. I'm like, okay, this one, J. Scott Campbell pencils and Alex Garner inks on that one. That's the Gen 13 crew. And then on this center one, it says Jim Lee pencils, and then it says Troy Hubbs and Alex Garner on inks on this center figure. So the guys who both inked this one and this one, according to the credits, inked this center figure. So I'm like, where's the division of labor happen when two different inkers are assisting tackling the pencils on the center figure? The inking on the face is very different from Scott Williams' look over Jim Lee. The hair is very different from what Scott Williams does on Jim Lee. So it does look different, but I'd be really curious to know who did what when it says both inkers worked on the center figure. It's kind of fun to see three of my favorite artists on one single image. It is interesting. You can see a lightly penciled hand down here that was connected to Zealot here. Her other hand coming down. She's got her hand here holding a sword, and it looks like the sword handle is going right into Fairchild's little girl bits there, so I can see why they would leave that out. Fun, you know? But unfortunately, that is the end of the Wildstorm portion. I really, really wish that there was more. I'm glad that we got to see what we did get to see. It's fun, but I could stare at more Jim Lee Wildstorm content. The entirety of the Wildcats miniseries, there was a lot of cool stuff in the issues that he started up subsequently after the miniseries. There was like a 4-page double spread that looked incredible in, what is it, issue 5, I think it was. Like, there's just so much that I wish it could have been in here. It's kind of unfortunate, and I think the chances of us ever getting that is slim to none. So now we're back out. Now we're into the DC stuff. There's a lot here, and we're already 37 minutes into it, so I'm going to have to blast through some of this so this doesn't go on forever. Not sure what this image was used for. I mean, it does kind of say it was kind of chopped off. It's funny how this is Marvel Comics paper, and it has X-Men on there, and then crossed out and something else. Something about the Dark Knight, issue 50 something. This is Jim Lee doing, this is 92, but it's kind of got that Death Blow-ish, very quick, sketchy style, chunky brush work, kind of a Sin City Frank Miller thing. I love it. It gives Jim Lee's work an entirely different flavor. I mean, sometimes I feel like the best version of Jim Lee is heavily shadowed, non-cross-hatching, inked by himself like this and those Death Blow pages. That's the best stuff. I wish we could see more of that. It's very rough. It's not polished, but that's kind of why I like it. Speaking of polished, to the most perfect degree that Jim Lee and Scott Williams could possibly do, they're pages from Hush. These are pristine, very well cared for. No yellowing or anything. I do have a black and white collection of the Hush series that I have already shown on the channel, so I have kind of gone through that. The art's not as big as this. Obviously, it's more standard comic size. I think slightly bigger. But I have gone through all the Hush pages in black and white on the channel already. Even though this is, an era of Jim Lee's art that I'm not particularly interested in. I'm not interested in the Batman work. I'm not interested in the Hush storyline that much. And his art style has changed. I cannot deny the amount of work put into it. I love the hands of Batman up close, the big muscular anatomy of the guy, the guns, all the wires, the detail put into that, the giant chain up front. Again, big hands, the details on the guns, the perspective on the background here, this overhead shot looking down from this guy. This is looking down. I love this, dry brush effect going on through here. That's fantastic. And that level of detail gets completely lost in the original book. Once it's colored and shrunk down, there's detail that just vanishes. And it's really unfortunate because there's such neat looking stuff going on in their work. So like I said, you know, I may not be a huge fan of the Batman work and the DC content, but getting to see Jim Lee's work in black and white is always worth it a little bit. That picture of Batman's kind of awful. And again, I say that this is Jim Lee, but his arm is so huge, so thick, and then it almost looks like there's only one leg. So it's just like one right arm and one left leg. I think Jim Lee has said that he's not particularly thrilled with this drawing. He was still trying to getting a feel for the character. I think. I could be wrong. You could correct me on that for sure. But, you know, not my favorite shot that he's ever done of Batman. I'd rank it as amongst the worst. Hey, a giant lizard monster. I know that's Killer Croc, but, you know, Jim Lee makes him into a lizard monster. Gotta say, the way he drew this case in like three-dimensional perspective and all the details on it, that's absolutely fantastic. That is so awesome. I'm going to speed through some of these a little bit. Fantastic backgrounds. This overhead shot of Gotham City is Batman's chasing Catwoman. Love this single shot. Batman, Catwoman, Poison Ivy. Love the heavy shadows. I like the crosshatch and gray tone lines. The like organic tree branch thing in the background with cats all over it. That is really nice. More great double page spreads. The entire Hush series, it started out with like I think it was a splash page, and then flipping it open, it was a double splash page. Well, it's not a splash meaning single image, but it is a spread across both pages. Love the perspective on like the pipe the guy's holding here. The gun. It's a Beretta. It's awesome. I own one of those. I bought one just this year, and I've only been able to shoot it the one time. I need to go to the range again and pop off a few rounds. It's awesome. Yeah, this cover right here. I was looking at this black and white, and at first glance, you see these two big rectangular shapes? I thought those were Batman's actual eyes. It's not. Those are his brows above his eyes. There's little tiny slits underneath him that are Batman's squinty little eyes. But looking at it and just pretending that these big square shapes are actually Batman's actual eyes, I actually think that looks better. It's kind of creepy. I just kind of misread the visuals at a glance. I'm like, what is... Oh, no. Okay, that's the brow above his eyes and then his forehead. It's just a weird thing. A lot of detail. Like the poison ivy, like thorns, rose bush thorns kind of wrapping around Catwoman. Fun. I like the shot of Superman and poison ivy up there. That looks really good. Great pages. Goddamn. There's a lot of neat stuff going on. I like the shot where actually, I bet you about some artists not doing backgrounds, Liefeld, where he never, ever, ever, ever does backgrounds, but sometimes it can work not doing backgrounds. Now, Liefeld doesn't do it because he can't. He has no skill or ability. He physically is incapable of doing backgrounds. Like, look at this shot. Can you even imagine Liefeld attempting establishing city shot of Gotham like this? And it's just basic 1 point perspective. There's a vanishing point somewhere, probably right down, you could just track, probably right here. It is 1 point perspective it, and then, get your vertical lines, but then you got to add all this detail in, cars and shit. Absolutely beautiful. Hyper detailed background, and then cut to a shot where it's just Batman and Alfred. No backgrounds. It works. You can isolate the figures. We don't need backgrounds. You can do it. You don't have to have backgrounds everywhere. There's none there. There's none there. There's none there. There's none there. But it's fine. You don't need it because there's also a bunch of space going to be taken up by word balloons that's going to cover all that shit anyway. So why draw a bunch of stuff that's just going to be covered up? So you could do non-backgrounds in places, but good God, does that look fantastic. Such a great establishing shot. That's my favorite drawing on the whole page. Is that a city shot? Solid drawing, except I hate Jim Lee's version of the Joker, specifically the hyper pointy chin and the extremely hyper pointy nose. Not a fan. But the idea is great. I love the black leathery look. The ability to kind of choose where to put all these black shapes in a black leathery glove, but then to leave the highlights, it's tricky. That's hard to do. But I think it looks awesome. Good action page over here. Yeah, beat the shit out of Joker, please. Bust his pointy-ass nose off. Get it out of here. I do like this up angle, like this low angle looking up at the chin of the Joker there. Don't like the nose, but it's fine. Um, I like the heavy use of blacks in the page. A lot more blacks going on than normal. Looks great. Love the rainy shots. Good shot of Batman and Nightwing running. Again, the figures are great. Superheroic poses, good running shots. But my eye is drawn to this great background. Love the organic looking kind of like brick rooftop here, the water tower. So it's like older buildings that are lower to the ground, but then in the distance, in the background, are much more technologically advanced, higher, taller skyscraper buildings. Got the blimps in the background, the skylights crisscrossing up there, and then there's this detailed city in the background, some white kind of paint dabbed on it to give it like a smoky texture. It's so great. I love the backgrounds. Again, the figures are good, obviously, but the backgrounds are just fantastic. Double page spread of the Batcave. Good Lord, all this detail and all these various Batmobiles. You know, there's the Adam West one. There's the Batman animated series one. I think this one up here is supposed to be the Keaton version, I think. A lot of detail, a lot of work went into that one. The cover to the book on this thing itself, I do like the idea of like Hush, like the eyes being just left in pencil. I appreciate the idea. I gotta say, I don't think it works. It to me, it just looks like an unfinished drawing. And it was obviously intentionally left with inking the Batman figure and the dead Robin skeleton zombie body, but then leaving the eyes in pencil. I get the idea. It kind of gives it a different look, a ghostly kind of image in the background. I think it would be better if it was inked, but that's just me. Who cares what I think? Good shot of Batman standing there. Again, it's fine, but I'm not super blown away. Oh yeah, this right here. What's funny is at a glance, I thought that these two images were like together because they're standing on rooftops. I'm like, it doesn't quite. Oh wait. Oh no. Oh, okay. Right. It's actually a fold out. And God, these weren't exactly folded on the seam exactly perfectly, but it works. Yeah. Let me see if I can get it all in frame here. Hell of a triple page cover. I think there's the cover, right? All great figures. Again, my eyes are drawn to the backgrounds, the great city shots, the chunky rock textures in the building down here. Like there's like little gargoyle faces down here in the building that they're standing on. There's these little faces inked in there. I don't think I would ever saw that in the original artwork. I love the inking techniques going on, the way these like kind of like white fade outs are going on, like through the smoky texture. It's all pretty awesome stuff. I do kind of like that pose on what's her name there. I always forget her name. I can never think of it because I've almost never read anything with her in it. But anyway, good triple page going on there. Now this right here, this one I really dig, but again, mostly because I'm trying to get this fold pressed down the way it's supposed to be. I love the background that Jim Lee has done here. A lot of dry brush going on. Looks like he probably took a brush of some type, and you get ink on it, and then you kind of get the ink, the majority of the ink off it, and then you can kind of like just dry brush this stuff in and just kind of like paint it on. It looks like done in little swirly, smoky little gestures. And then you come back with white paint and kind of paint in and on and around it. It makes it look like smoke coming off the top of the buildings and clouds. And then the buildings themselves are not that hyper particularly like specific. Like the backgrounds back here are done with like rulers and a lot of precision, attention paid to precision and detail. This is more like it was gridded out to have the proper perspective. But then the black shapes in this are just kind of like dabbed on with a brush quickly, and then a little bit of white paint kind of dabbed on top of that. So it's much more rough and expressive rather than technically precise, and I love it. I like the Batman figure is the least interesting thing going on this page for me. I love the atmospheric backgrounds. That's the most interesting thing that I'm seeing there. Kind of the same thing with this shot here. Yeah, Batman's awesome, but I love the dry brush clouds and then the painted on lightning bolt striking through it. I like the backgrounds better than anything. That's where Jim Lee's getting more expressive and experimental. Like, he can do this type of stuff in his sleep. Shuts his eyes, can do it instantly. No big deal. He did mess around a little bit for a while. I don't know if it's whether it's like watercolor paint that's been diluted down or just ink wash, but the effect is basically the same. I do like this simple shot, like where it's just a white page and then a simple, heavily shadowed shot of Batman. Like, it's very Mike Mignola kind of looking with just the highlights at the top and just big blocky dark shape. I really like that. Very, very cool. More of the same, the ink wash stuff, and then Hush, the character I don't care anything about, but the style is fun. And then I believe we're getting into, this is some of the All-Star Batman and Robin stuff, which I've said and I maintain, artistically, I liked Jim Lee's All-Star Batman and Robin work way better than his Batman Hush work. Because he was trying to kind of do something visually a little bit more exciting because it's Frank Miller. I don't know. This is just me. I just think that this stuff looks better. And the average person might look at it and go, it looks exactly the same, you chud. I'm like, I get it. I know. There's something that's a little bit different. What do we got? Black Canary here. This is all kind of fine. We do get... How about that? That giant double page spread of her kicking is very reminiscent of that Psylocke kick when she was booting Magneto's helmet off in X-Men #1. Similar to that, putting that boot right up front, all the detail of the guy's teeth being busted out of his head. Very big and exciting. Kind of fun. I like it. I can't remember if this is just a page in the book or an actual cover. This is that inside, like the front cover of this thing. Book. Like this image here is just that shot there. Love it. Love the inking going on. All these like great transitions, these gray tones you get. Little stubble in his beard and the cross-hatching lines all across his face, the shadow across the front. And again, seeing it in black and white, I like it better than color. I don't know what it is. This is way more interesting to me. I love the basic background, like just this kind of flat one-point perspective of these dock pier things. And these posts, these anchor posts and stuff. I love the background. Good shot of a canary there. I love the rain coming down on her. Love these silhouetted guns up front with the hands and then water falling on these silhouetted guns. Works so well. Make sure I'm not skipping pages. Green Lantern pages from All-Star Batman, they're fine. Again, not trying to have this video go longer than an hour. We're definitely going to hit that. More of the same, where a 16-year-old kid gets out there and is grabbing bad guys by the balls. A little weird. I always liked this cover. I think that looks great. For some reason, I'm into that pose of Batman just standing there, flexing and pointing forward as Superman charges. I love the gray tones you've done with the cross-hatching on Superman there. The great basic perspective going on. That's a 3-point perspective. Vanishing point up here, vanishing point there, vanishing point there. Love that cover. It's from 2018, so it's a much more modern thing, but I've always liked that. Not sure what this is for, but obviously a Dark Knight Frank Miller inspired image. I think it works really well. Same thing going on here. This is DK3 cover, so that's fine. Again, that dry brush effect that he does. This stuff is just so fascinating to me because there's a glow to it with the dry brush giving, you got some heavy blacks, but then some nice gray tones, and then he comes back in with white paint splattering it in places. It gives it a glowy effect and like a smoky effect. It looks so good. And this is Jim Lee inking himself, and I'm a fan of Scott Williams inking Jim Lee. Don't get me wrong, but something there looks fantastic. This one, I don't know that I've ever seen this drawing before. And again, Batman standing there, side pose, knee up. I'm kind of not interested in the Batman. But this I can't remember what the fuck this character is, because again, I didn't read the books, but I've seen it. Whoever he is, this guy with the spiky thing around his eyes and then this open, screamy mouth, that is creepy as hell. That is spooky. I love, again, there's more dry brush and scratch. It looks like he's taken a razor blade and scratched this rainy texture into it. There's some white paint going on for the highlights. Again, that face in the background, the spikes, the mouth, that is creepy. So well done. Absolutely beautiful. Fantastic. And more ink wash stuff that he was doing there. That's fine. Now we get into Superman stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Jim Lee did do a whole run of a Superman thing that I bought and did not like in the slightest. Do not like this costume redesign at all. Do not like the collar. Do not like the red underwear being omitted. Do not like the weird little plate line designs in it. This classic original Superman design for me is always going to be the only version that works. The black and white looks great with the Scott Williams great kind of inking, giving it that gray tone look in the cape. The shadows on his abs and stuff on his lower legs looks so good. And then organic rock texture on the ground. Great, great, great. I don't think I've ever seen this image before. Don't know what it's about. Pretty interesting. Looks like Jim Lee inking himself, 2001. No cross-hatching, no rendering, just kind of an open line thing. Really cool. This homage to that classic shot of Superman in the sky. Looks really good. Love the figure. Good Lord, what a pain in the ass it would be to draw that background. That city shot, 3-point perspective, all that detail. Shoot me. Because it looks great when you do it, but there's nothing I could imagine as more tedious than that type of shit. Oh my God. Credit to Jim Lee for penciling it and for Scott Williams for inking it. I can already hear in the comments, Jim Lee has ghost artists that does his backgrounds for me. Well, if you know that for a fact, you can tell me who it is. Until then, I'll just credit Jim Lee. Good shot of Superman there, Aquaman. You know, the fishies, the whales, the underwater sea life. This is the stuff I'm more interested in. Giant seahorse looks great. This is all very cool. Wonder Woman. I'm looking, because sometimes... Oh, yeah. I did notice there were a couple of pages where I'm like, who inked this? Because it looks different. And... because I'm like, I have enough of an eye to know when it's a Scott Williams inked page. And I was looking at this, I'm like, something's different. And I had to look, and up here it says SHOPE. I'm like, that's Sandra Hope. And it says it over here, it says Sandra. Sandra Hope is a great inker. She's been around for quite a while. I think she was working in the 90s, as far as I know, when she started. But Sandra Hope inking Jim Lee, I'm like, I don't know if I'd ever knew that even existed before. That's awesome. But something is different. And I can see it. I can't verbalize what it is. But it's different, and it looks great. So a couple of great pages inked by Sandra Hope over Jim Lee. And that's not the only thing. I do remember, because when I saw these, I remember in the back of my mind, I'm like, something's a little different, but I didn't kind of acknowledge it. And then I flipped over to this one. And I'm looking at the line work on this. I'm like, this is different too. Something is different. So I looked up and I saw that Richard Friend inked this one. I was like, oh. So that's when I went back and then saw it out. I'm like, okay, Sandra Hope inked this. Richard Friend, who's so good. He's just one of the best inkers out there. This is Richard Friend inking Jim Lee. And again, I can't identify what exactly it is. It's just the translation of the ink stroke lines. It's Jim Lee art, but it looks different. And then I came over to this page. I'm like, someone else inked this. Who's this one? And it has Joseph Weems. And I got to do an interview with him. He's like maybe my favorite inker, forever. Ever since I kind of identified his name when I noticed him inking stuff way back in the day. He does the best version of David Finch. David Finch's best work is when, in my opinion, when Joseph Weems is inking him. Michael Turner's best work is when Joseph Weems is inking him. Mark Silvestri's best work is when Joseph Weems is inking him. And now here we have a Jim Lee. I'm like, did I miss knowing that he got to ink, Weems got to ink Jim Lee? Oh, it's so good. I would love to see an entire book done by Sandra Hope, Richard Friend, Joseph Weems. And again, that's not to disparage Scott Williams, but it just gives us something different. As an artist, the artist in me loves it. I was hoping that there was a lot more, but there's not. It kind of goes back to this Scott Williams stuff. And again, it all looks great, but just the artist in me wants to see a little bit more different stuff. I'm not sure who the giant guy getting shot up there is. Don't know if I care. Assuming that's a bat cave, I'm guessing. What else would it be? Keep going. Let's keep going. It's a fun spread. Another fun spread, but not my favorite stuff. Not my favorite Superman costume design. No idea what the story is from, so I'm not super thrilled about it. I mean, Superman Unchained. I'm certain I never collected that, so I don't know what it is. Looks good. Looks good. Just trying to blast through some of this. Both of these shots of Superman are almost the exact same pose, just flipped. That's right. Superman beat the piss out of whoever that is. I mean, I don't know. Is it Apocalypse? Is it Maul from Wildcats? Because that shot right there, whoever this bad guy is, I look at that, I'm like, hey, that's Maul from Wildcats. Superman would fucking rip his head off in a blink of an eye. I know that's not who it is, but... I like that shot, that punchy shot. That's a great panel. Love it. Then we get into some DC Comics, just characters, just DC Comics random stuff. Good shot there. Again, look at that detailed background. Holy crap. That would have taken so long to do. I would have been pissed. Bunch of JLA stuff. Again, looks great. Love that dark side shot. That is a Scott Williams ink job. Love the little cut-in white crackly designs there. Very cool. Let's keep going. More wild backgrounds. Holy crap. That would have taken some time. Very complicated with all these like designy things coming in. Sandra Hope. There. More pages by her. Again, looking at it, I'm like, I see a difference. Credit to her for kicking ass. Holy shit. Yep, Scott Williams. I like that shot. It's interesting. Some of these pages have like a number at the top. Like this one has written on the top. It says 3,500. I wonder if that's the price he sold this page for. Like this one says 6,000. So I wish I had $6,000 to buy an original piece of Jim Lee artwork, but alas, I never will. More great pages. Let's just wrap it up. We're getting towards the end. Make out with Wonder Woman. Hell yeah, Superman. Tell us what it's like. We all want to know. I'm not sure. Doesn't list. I mean, there's a signature down here on this one. It's not Scott Williams, because you can see Scott Williams' signature is this big long S, Scott, and then Williams, and a long line out here. Not sure whose signature that is for the inks. That is not Scott Williams, if I had to guess. Can't tell. But again, it's interesting how different inkers give different artists a different vibe. Anyway, let's get out of this. More of the same. More of that, whoever that other inker is. Looks great. Looks great. Good Batman shot. Great stuff. Just more covers. Oh, those are awesome. Love the spotting of the blacks in that there. All these weird little versions of whatever the hell Batmans are going on there. Don't know what that's all about. Love the giant robotic cybernetic cock in the background there. Careful, guys. It's going to bust this giant laser load all over you. Love the creepy villain thing there. Almost done. Almost done. There's Harley. There's girl riding giant bat. And a couple of single images. And then just a breakdown of who Jim Lee is and what he's done throughout his career. Blah, blah, blah. Neat book. For the price that I got it for, super worth it for me. Again, I'm going to be overloaded with these artist editions. When I get the ones in, again, I've got a Aaron Weisenfeld one coming that's a fan-made one. J. Scott Campbell, Danger Girl. The Rob Liefeld one. And there's another one. I can't remember. Anyway, I'm going to have about 10 of these things. And there's still more that I just don't have space for. I'll have to decide in the future. But anyway, Jim Lee, you know, it's fantastic stuff. Very, very talented guy, even if I'm not a huge fan of kind of his current stuff-ish, and I'm more of a fan of his older work. Getting to see it in the black and white, the work on the page with all those incredible inkers, totally worth it for an artist. And what more can I say? It's just fantastic. I love this stuff. So, you know, went a little over an hour. What can I say? If you've stayed for the entire video, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching my channel. I really, really appreciate it, guys. So that's all I've got for now, and I'll see you next time.